I waited 40 seconds to die, what the diver who was swallowed by a whale had to endure. Michael Packard, who has been fishing for decades, is distinguished by his traditional approach to catching crawfish and lobsters, rejecting the use of nets or traps. He prefers to catch crustaceans exclusively by hand. Michael is confident that with this method he can select large specimens. As usual, one morning, the ship, along with Michael and his crew, set off on a sea voyage, putting on a wetsuit and taking scuba gear with him. Michael plunged into the ocean depths, where the depth reached about 11 meters and visibility was about 6 meters. While exploring the bottom in search of lobsters, Michael suddenly felt a powerful shock, after which he was surrounded by complete darkness. At first he could not understand what had happened, but after realizing the situation, Michael was shocked. He ended up in the mouth of a huge sea creature, and worst of all, he lost his breathing tube in the collision. In absolute darkness, he managed to find the hose, and Michael was able to breathe. The man was completely pinned and could only move his arms. Having felt the surface around him, he realized with relief that it was not a shark. There were no teeth to be felt, so Michael realized that he had been swallowed by a whale. Michael began to hope for salvation, realizing where he was, but soon the whale began to move, and the man's hopes for rescue diminished. He was preparing to meet fate, thinking with irony about his unusual death. However, the whale realized that it had swallowed something inedible. Michael felt the whale shake its head, open its mouth, and, like a cork, it flew out. Once on the surface of the water, he could hardly believe his luck, realizing that he was alive. A few minutes later, a ship with a crew arrived at the scene and helped Michael get on board. His fellow workers happily clapped him on the back, surprised at his return, having almost given up hope of seeing him again. The situation was dangerous not because the whale is capable of swallowing a person. After all, these sea giants have a throat too narrow for this. The danger was the possibility that the whale would release the diver at too great a depth, which could lead to his death. Michael spent only 40 seconds inside the animal, which seemed like an eternity to him. After the incident, Michael was immediately taken to a medical facility. The entire hospital staff gathered around an unusual patient. One of the nurses even asked him to tell him the lucky numbers for the lottery. The man shared his stories, although he remained in the hospital for only a few hours. Since no serious injuries were found except for a dislocated knee and numerous bruises, however, Michael does not intend to give up his profession, despite his wife's objections. After all, Michael is indeed often lucky, or unlucky, depending on how you look at the situation. In 2001, he survived the plane crash in the jungles of Costa Rica, where he was found at the last moment. In 2000, he was attacked by a white shark and lost consciousness underwater. Michael got lost in the ocean several times while going fishing in his small boat, but was rescued each time. This is in contrast to this incident where a whale caused fear to local residents in Indonesia. Michael's wife is sure that someday his luck will run out and he may die, but the man only laughs in response to her warnings. What do you think? Is this random luck or just fate? Leave your comments.